All right, folks, welcome back to the Gunslinger Syndicated Radio Network. Real quick, I want to give an update on Jeff on what's going on. Successful surgery for his heart. He is recouping right now, so we started out this hour with a prayer and all that. So keep them going, folks. Send your good well wishes to him. Hopefully, he'll be discharged by the end of this week. Continue. He is resting, he is strengthening, and just keep praying for him and his family right now.
Given the circumstances, everything is going as well as it possibly can, and we just want to keep it that way.
Absolutely. Okay? But so let's jump back into the show. Keep his ship afloat, as we like to say here. So, ladies and gentlemen, we do have Rick Travis of the CRPA, who's been on our show every week, giving us updates
for years.
Literally years.
Literally years, every week. For literal years. So you get to hear him, and if you're watching online, you finally get to see him live. And we're just gonna open up, see how he is doing over the CRPA, give a little history on all of that, give a little history to the folks that don't know. Maybe you're a new listener and don't know how much they do for us here in California, and not only California, but this nation. Rick?
Yeah, so thank you for letting me come here and be in the same room with you guys. I'm honored.
It's cool.
Like you have not given up enough of your time for the people of California. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah. No, it's my pleasure. So CRPA started 150 years ago. I'm wearing the 150th anniversary shirt tonight for you guys.
Nice shirt.
And thank you. And we started, ironically, at a time where California was ruled by Democrats, Democratic governor, complete Democratic Senate and Assembly. Back in 1875, they'd outlawed hunting, and the majority of Californians did not have access to a firearm. So we've been in a really bad place before as a state. And
started on the back foot.
Yeah, and what happened was, and this is the part that's going to be really weird for people, but it was the mayor of Oakland, the mayor of San Francisco, and the head of the California, what today would be the National Guard, who came together and said, well, California, as you guys know, didn't have major battles in the Civil War. Californians in the Civil War didn't do well in the battles that they were in because they just didn't have the firearms experience.
Yeah.
And so there had been a New York Rifle and Pistol Association had been started up, and they said, hey, let's put together a team and start our own association, and we'll go have a competition. And that little group in New York would become the NRA. And we were the first ones to go compete against them, actually beat them in the first time. Didn't for a long time after that, but we did in our first time. And from there, the CRPA, at that time it was called the California Rifle Association, and it fought for years to make sure people had training. Just amazing things. I know you guys love to talk about history, but like one of their very first public shoots had people of all backgrounds. You know, California had Chinese people that were working on the railroads. They had a lot of Latinos, obviously, because this had been part of Mexico. There were some Russians that were still left over from Monterey area. They had all these people, all these backgrounds, and they had 5,000 people shoot.
5,000. That's a good number.
Yeah, and that's a good number a day. And they actually shot in what today is Golden Gate Park, which I think is like...
This is so ironic.
Yeah,
yes.
So ironic. So it's like lots changed since then, obviously. But then in 1922, we had just had the war to end all wars. Mm-hmm. And the federal government, through the civilian marksmanship program, started selling off 1911s for like $1.25. It was like a ridiculous price.
Oh, man.
And they were delivered by the mailman and just left on your front door.
How things have changed.
Yes. And as a result, a lot of people wanted to start target shooting pistols. And so that's when we added the word pistol and pistol association to it. And we've always been fighting for Second Amendment rights, your rights to hunt, your rights to competitively shoot, and to advance new ideas in the sport. And so I started working with them almost 15 years ago.
Wow.
And have done a lot of the different positions in there, but I'm very happy to be the legislative director, a.k.a. lobbyist, and fighting for all 39 million Californians' rights to maintain their Second Amendment rights.
Whoa. I mean, 15 years is a long time, but how you've really progressed and what you're doing now, it says so much about what the CRPA can do for all of California. But how ironic is that the places where these two biggest pro Second Amendment activist groups started out are in some of the most worst states in all of the U.S. to own a firearm. How they pretty much handcuff you, literally and figuratively.
But one of the things I try to get out to people is, a lot of people today say, why do I have to fight for my rights? And I look at them and say, if you go back, this is the 250th anniversary of the country, we were all British citizens, and we put up with we put up with taxes. I mean, I find it ironic that George Washington himself said if taxes were more than 3%, you should revolt.
Right?
Yikes.
Yeah.
We're well past that, multiple fold. But it wasn't until they came for our firearms that we took up arms against our own government to say, no, you can't take our firearms and ammunition. And I really think George Mason was right that, what changed us from being British citizens to Americans was defending our rights. And so I look at all the stuff I face in the Capitol is I am doing what made us Americans, and that is fighting for our right to have a firearm and to protect our family and put food on the table, et cetera, because that's what made us Americans.
Can you take a second and explain the importance of George Mason to this conversation?
George Mason, along with one of my favorite presidents, Little Monroe, were the guys who helped frame what we call the original Bill of Rights, which started off with 200. A lot of people don't realize there were 200 submissions for the rights. And the first one is what is today the First and Second Amendment, but it was all
combined.
one. And that's why
that's important.
Yeah, and that's why I tell people all the time, the word shall not be infringed was the end of the bookend of your God-given rights, which are those encased in the first, and the second was the way to defend it from a tyrannical government.
Okay, so George Mason is substantially the father of the Bill of Rights.
And you know what? I bring up that point that they were originally the first together.
Right.
And people are it's kind of an eye-opening kind of revelation that those things work hand in hand to protect the one, and the one is the most important. But
Right.
that, if you look at them together, they are the most important.
And that's why the far left wants to eliminate the Second Amendment, because then they can destroy the rights of the First. And we just have to look to the pandemic to see how they tried to do it.
Yep.
Authoritarian states hate competition, and one of the first things they always go after, whether it is the sword laws, the
Knife
samurai
laws.
laws, they always go after whatever the weaponry is. So they have that all-important thing, which is a monopoly on force.
Yeah, and you can look at England. England went after the firearms, then they went after the knives, and they went after everything. It just never stops.
And looking at them at this very moment, they are in an uproar of violence, of a lot, and a lot of
removing weapons didn't lower
Stop
violence?
violence.
What?
Again,
No.
when you blame the implement instead of the individual.
Yeah, looking at them now and why we fought so hard to keep our firearms, so the slippery slope of where they're at now doesn't happen here.
Right.
And
And we're not Canada, where you have police authorities telling you, okay, just hang your keys just inside the door where thieves can get at them, because all they want is your car.
all they want is your car.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
what
want
bad
my
guys
car
do.
too. That's the
I paid for
problem,
my car.
right?
Yeah.
If you're going to give everything for free, I should be getting it for free too. Then, right?
And as long as I'm in here, that's a nice stereo and a nice 16-year-old daughter, whatever. Come on,
Yeah,
guys.
and
that's what happens without the Second Amendment.
Yeah. So the history of it, what made us Americans, is fighting for those rights,
Yeah.
folks. That is the basis of America, fighting for your, like you said, our God-given rights. I've mentioned this probably once or twice before, but this Constitution, this Bill of Rights, only works for a God-fearing, God-acknowledging public. And once we start taking all those things away, all of it fails, because that's where anarchy, that's where chaos survive. So us fighting for these actual laws, bills, and rights that we have is actually, as much as they like to say our diversity and all this is what makes America great. No, these things that are written for this country are what make us great. So but I mean, the basis of what you built your whole this career with the CRPA on is America at base.
Right.
So
We certainly are a
Absolutely.
truculent and contentious lot, aren't we?
Yes, we
I say that with just the right amount of pride. We should be. Do not accept your government at face value. Always remember, never forget, ladies and gentlemen, all politics revolves around this one simple, politics in this country revolves around this one simple premise, and that is those bums work for you.
Absolutely. And because this is a fun with guns show and all that, these rights of our self-protection, they've evolved into our, like you said, there were the hunting. There weren't many hunters here previously.
Oh, you look at all the fun things people do. I mean, California does not get the credit back. I mean, you look at SAS that you and Jeff love to do.
Yep.
SAS started in Orange County, and then moved out to, Rahagas, and then went from there.
And I go to Europe almost every year to do it. That's how popular it's become. It's huge in Australia.
Up in Slow, they started off this thing that a couple of my coworkers started laughing at. I said, there were people in Coda de Cause at one time laughed at people showing up dressed as cowboys. So I wouldn't laugh so hard. But, they've got a group of people that have recreated Miami Vice and shoot from cigarette boats that are up on trailers and do the whole thing. And I've seen other groups in the state that do the Magnum PI kind of a thing and show up and dress up and do it. And I think that's really cool. The kids that go out and are competing at the high school level and now making it a sport to ride horses and shoot the balloons and things like, there are so many fascinating activities that people do.
All good, fun, healthy outdoor stuff.
And on that point, like you see them and they start building these communities around. I've seen stuff that after some of the video game stuff that they had, the Red Dead Redemption had a big one that they had for cowboy action shooting. But I seen them like some of the, because they come out with a lot of new military stuff, and that's how a lot of these kids get
Or
introduced.
zombie shoots that they do this time of the year at some of the different ranges, which are just absolutely hilarious and fun.
And that's what that is. This is a community that, one of the ways we practice our right is by training in these fun and different ways. And it's a huge community, and it can incorporate so many different types of people. This right is for all patriots of every shape, shade, and gender. So this is how we build, and we have in
building
inclusion.
is an important part of that. I want to throw something out. If you've ever had a chance to interact with any of the young people in the shooting sports, almost without exception, they're so polite, so well behaved, so well mannered, and they're the antithesis of what is portrayed by people who have no familiarity with what they're talking about. These are kids you want to be around.
That's so true.
Absolutely. And to have our youth learn proper etiquette with firearms, to educate them, and that's one thing we've touched on a lot. They've tried to eliminate education in the proper ways, and especially in the state now in this country. How we can really incorporate and teach the youth properly, it's going to speak for generations. We're going to keep jumping on this. We're going to have a special call-in guest in the next half hour.
Looking forward to that. But in the meantime, because we always ask this question at the end of your segment, because it's your segment. No, this is going to be an easy one for you. How do people get a hold of the California Rifle and Pistol Association?
CRPA.org. And if they have questions, contact at CRPA.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking more calls at 866-870-5752. But we're going to go into a little longer break, and we'll have a special guest on the phone to chat it up with someone you'll really know.
Right here on the
Gunslinger
Syndicated Radio Network.
Yeah, baby. Let's come on.